forward is like this. Krishna will end his cloud fundamentals session by August. Let me open the calendar here. So today we are 18th of July, right? So today we will go through this session, and 25th of July and 1st of July, as well as 8th of July. So 4 more sessions on cloud fundamentals. And then cloud fundamentals, basically mostly a theory-based session for you guys to understand the overall picture about the cloud, right? And of course, the Microsoft Azure has been considered as a primary technology to kind of help you to understand the cloud fundamentals. Of course, it is applicable for other areas as well. But we took Azure as a base to explain you the fundamentals. So now that will complete by 8th of August, and then from 15th of August, like 15th, 22nd, 29th of August, as well as 5th and 12th of September, right? So if you look at the Eventbrite, let me just open it up here. Just a minute. Chrome. Give me a second so that we have a clear understanding here. So as you see here, introduction to the microservices and Kubernetes. This is going to start on August 15th, and it's going to continue. We're going to have 5 sessions on this. This is a very, very important topic that we would be covering in this track after the cloud fundamentals. By the way, after the cloud fundamentals is complete, those people who have attendance based on the criteria, you will all get certificates of attending this, certificate of attending this cloud fundamentals. And after that, we will start this microservice and Kubernetes, which will be delivered by Ahmed Harb. And it will start on August 15th and it will end on September 12th, 5 sessions, okay? So by September 12th, the Kubernetes session will complete. And then from 19th onwards, we will start on AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning. We are working with a few people to come up with the duration to complete that artificial and machine learning topic, where you can learn about those areas. And then once that is completed, then we will get back into the hands-on workshop. So the hands-on workshop will be focused on cloud architecture and data architecture. So this is going to be mostly a hands-on. It's more, not will be a theory, but it will be more on the hands-on. The topic will be cloud architecture and data architecture framework. So with that, we will end the whole year for this track, right? So rest of the things that you're going to learn is after cloud fundamentals, you're going to learn Kubernetes and microservices, followed by you're going to learn artificial intelligence and ML. And then finally, we will end the year with cloud and data architecture framework with three or four sessions. So that's going to be the plan for intelligent automation track that you guys are attending today. Any questions, guys? It's clear? All good? Herman, Joy, Nadia, everything is good?
Yep.
Okay. So that's our plan for this whole year, and I expect that you continue to attend and learn these topics. And then next year we will get into a more hands-on on all these areas, right? So this year is basically helping you to understand the different concepts and all those different things that are required to be a best ops person, right? Operations person. As you know, Testoper basically is a non-profit developer community, helps you to build your testing and operation skills, right? So the IA track is more focused on building your ops skills. as a developer, because it's a developer community, right, for ops skills. So that would be our focus for this year. And then next year, we'll continue with additional programs to help you to further build hands-on expertise as an ops person and as an automation person in this IA track. Okay. So that's the first thing that I wanted to make sure that is clearly communicated here. And then the second thing is, I know a number of people attending today have also joined the hackathon session that we are doing. Thanks a lot for joining the hackathon session, and I'm very happy to announce that we have total of 16 participants in the hackathon session, and we basically pitch the ideas from different people, prioritize 2 ideas, form the team, 2 teams to execute on that idea. So this is going really well, and those who have not already part of the hackathon program that we are doing, and if you are interested to create something, we are going to look additional people to join us and come with an idea to build the new projects around that. So if you are interested, please show your interest by typing whatever your interests are and your participation interest in the hackathon channel. So with that, I will hand over the session to Krishna. So Krishna, I am sharing your screen. Can you see the screen?
I can't see the screen because I'm on a mute. So can you go to the Azure Big Data Landscape? After
yes.
The Ahmed Harp's session, we will have a slide for the Big Data Landscape.
Sure, I'll help you. So, yeah. No problem. I'll help you. I am in the slide number 1 right now, basically, which covers all the topics that Krishna already covered us from the point of view of understanding the cloud fundamentals, starting from basic concepts and what are all on the network side about DNS, load balancers, gateway. So he covered a lot of things on the network side that you need to know as an operation professional, DevOps professional. And then he started covering about talking about the data point of view, right? What are all the data storages and disks related that you need to know as an ops personnel? So he talked about a lot of topics around that, including different databases that fall under the modern data estate and so on. And also he talked about marketplace that are available that you can leverage to kind of use in your day-to-day job or in your entrepreneurship journey. He covered about that. And then in the last session, he basically covered about the fundamentals of Internet of Things. Yesterday, in the last session, if you have attended, you would have learned about what is IoT, what are all the basic components of IoT, starting from the sensor to the gateway to the connectivity to the cloud, and all those things he covered in his last session. And today he's going to continue talking about the modern data estate, part 3, where he's going to introduce us another most important topic, which is big data analytics around the data, right? So we talked about storage, but then now he's going to talk about the next level of storage, that is big data and analytics. And finally, he will introduce the basics of artificial intelligence. And then we will go into the Kubernetes session, like I mentioned, and then followed by the detailed AI and ML session, where you will start learning how to build the AI ML products and train them and blah, 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 and so on after Kubernetes and microservices session. Okay, so that's an introduction. Then after that, there are so many sessions that's going to come towards end of the year as well as the next year, which will talk about serverless computing and so on and on. But that's for the next year most probably, right? So so he also had put a slide number 4, which kind of markets to make to help you to join the Kubernetes session presented by Ahmed Harp. And now I'm moving into the slide number 5. Krishna, the slide number 5 has a big data landscape with different blocks, and over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I think just to, I think if you're looking at Kubernetes and microservices, I definitely recommend attending the Harp session. He's one of the best Kubernetes engineers I've worked in the last few months now. So okay, let's coming back to this the big data landscape. Okay, so if you take the if you take the big data landscape in the industry, there are multiple different products and services, and there are different types of I would say variations of the same product from different vendors, like Cloudera, Hastings, Cloudera, as well as Data Stack, Databricks, you name it, there's one. So if you take what's within Microsoft Azure, right? So this is where it gets super interesting. From a platform perspective, if you look at it, there are a couple of key things that a big data platform should provide. It should be starting from able to help you ingest massive volume of data through automated processes. We also have things like the Azure Data Factory, which is basically a tool which will help you consume the data in a massive scale, and also once you take the data in, you should have ability to process them in multiple various forms and various ways. So that's where the tools like Kafka ingest engine comes into play. Additionally, you might have different types of data. In this case, if it's unstructured data, then you need to have ability to store the unstructured data in a form where you can consume it. That's where you have things like Cosmos DB comes into play. You also have options like Azure Data Lake Store, or you also have options like the SQL Data Warehouse, which is basically a SQL Synapse. So the landscape is very broad and wide, but what Microsoft has done is, so we give an opportunity for customers to consume different types of solutions based on the need. So I just want to drive the point home in terms of what we have out of the box in Azure. So can you go to the next slide, please?
Sure, Krishna. Just to have a question. I mean,
yep.
What is big data?
So to put it very simply, right, they call as different variations, right? So one is they call 3 V's, velocity, variety. I forgot the last one, right? So where it's basically big data doesn't mean a huge volume of data. It's different variations of data, right? So it could be some data could be coming at high velocity. Last week we spoke about IoT, and some data could be like various different within the same data, say multiple different types of it. Depending on where you look at, you have inclination of representation of the data in various shapes and forms, and the ability to be able to collect them into a single form or single storage system or multiple storage system. That's where the whole concept of the big data came in, right? So because the last few years, the type of data is exponentially blown up, depending on what you're looking at. So yeah, I think the definition is very broad and wide, but to give it very simply, ability for you to collect multiple different variations of data and keep them on storage systems and able to process at velocity,
Yeah. I mean, the people say that, the data is money, right? So how you are going to leverage the data and create, as an example, right, Krishna, like for example, there are so many customer data are collected by some service providers like Bell, TELUS, and right now they, though all those data are massive, right, terabytes and terabytes of data. Now you need to store them in a place, and then you need to actually crunch those data and create a meaningful insights of the data. Okay, this is the customer, these are the set of customers who's using this service. Why don't I create a product around that service so to improve the revenue, for example, right? So this is the end of the day, the data is the money, and you need to collect all the data, like you mentioned, different types of data, structured data, unstructured data coming from mobile phone, data coming from gateways, data coming from billing system, many different data sources, structured and unstructured, and you need to store them and you need to crunch them and create an insight on top of that using the BI tools or whatever that Azure or any other platform provides. So it's all about getting the data and storing it in a proper way so you can crunch them is all nothing but a big data. Is that a right way of concluding based on what you said?
Yeah, that's one way of concluding it, right? So depending on your use cases, you'll change it. So coming back to the second, can you move to the next one? So there are two offerings we offer. Like we are going to talk about two offerings. The first offering is called the Azure HT Insight. Okay, so when you think about HT Insight, people have used Hadoop for a number of years. Hadoop as a platform is being used, has got multiple different variations of it. So what Azure HT Insight will provide people is a couple of things. It provides you with a managed Hadoop solution. If you worked with Hadoop in the past, you know the challenges in terms of hosting it, building it, managing and maintaining it. It's very challenging. The second one we also offer within that Hadoop ecosystem is different variations of types of workload. There could be Spark, there could be classic, we have Storm. There are a lot of tools which have been there. We also offer that as a service. And also one additional thing, what we also do is we also help to optimize the clusters in such a way that you able to use your infrastructure things properly. If you know how Hadoop works, it's a huge, it needs massive storage systems. You have bots or cheap disks that are connected to it. So it's also, as it gets the option where you can optimize those solutions as well. And the last one, I think last two key points is the ability to bill. We have per minute billing, which means you don't spend too much money on the infrastructure. You pay only for what you use. And the last point is security and compliance perspective. We offer SLAs and things like that. So what it gives you is a fully managed Hadoop offering. Within that Hadoop, we will go into a couple of other solutions we offer. Can you go to the next slide, please? The HBase and all.
Yeah, I'm going.
Yep.
Yeah, you are in the next slide, which has HBase Hive.
So if you look at it, so these are different products called HBase, Hive, Spark, Storm, and Kafka, and also R. So what we've done is we've taken these open source softwares, build it on the Azure platform. In this case, Azure platform is composed of compute, storage, networking, the whole lot, and providing as a managed service. One key takeaway for you is we give you SLA of 99.9, which is a huge in terms of this is a composite SLA, which means it encompasses all the compute storage as well as networking into a single SLA model, which means as a customer, you instantiate the service, you don't really need to worry about individual piece of infrastructure. That's a huge change on it. So can you go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, there is one question, Krishna, for you.
Yes.
How the bot service uses big data?
A bot service, what happens, in this case, what we do with the bot service is we have a bot framework. So the bot framework would interact with the big data using APIs. So when we deploy these solutions, we also expose APIs, and some of the bot services who use it. If you think about bot services, we have multiple frameworks. So one is called Azure Bot Services, and we also have started building Power Apps. It also has got inbuilt bot services on it. Basically, everything is exposed through an API layer, and the API layer can be accessed. Of how it's done.
Hey, Krishna, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
We can. So it's got, so it's understood. So basically what you're saying is the bot service is an application layer that sits on top of the big data and consumes the data that is stored in the big data to do whatever that it needs to do. Same like Power BI, correct?
Yep, exactly same like Power BI. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. And another question is all the things that you're showing here like HBase, Hive, Spark, all these are the different open sources that are available that can help you to store the big data and provide that as an API for the upper application layer to consume. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So a lot of customers, what they do is, if you take your traditional big data workloads, big data systems, right? So you have to end up building your own custom APIs on top of what is there. So with Azure, you're getting a pre-built solution. That's all to it, And can you go to the next slide, please?
Sure. Yeah, I moved it, and it has a screenshot of HD Insight by Microsoft.
Yep. So if you think about it, so the configuration that we provide is similar to how we deploy any services in Azure, right? So you have a pre-built configuration. You're going to select the type of cluster you want. Once you choose the cluster, it's like pretty much is going to deploy it for you. It doesn't matter. There are a couple of key takeaways. It doesn't matter what type of cluster. We always make sure the version that we have is the latest and the greatest, and it's supported by Microsoft in its entirety. So which means as a customer, you can be rest assured that all the changes that are happening on the underlying layer, it's all available to you as a service. So there's a whole different equation for customers to take it. Sometimes, you know what, the Storm is not being actively built by the open source community, but some of the times we also support them as we go along, you know. So yeah, that's, if you go to the next slide, please.
Sure. One question here, Krishna.
Yes.
I mean, you know, the big data also stores the data, right? And the database also stores the data. What's the difference? Sorry, it's a layman question.
No. So see, if you think about the big data, you think about its operational or analytical data, okay? So it's like the database also stores data, but most of the time the database stores from a transactional purposes. But you store the data and the big data for analytical purposes, right? Most of the time you will not use the big data to be as a constant rewrite, update, delete sort of scenario. You have all the processing done on your traditional database, and then you move that into the big data. So also understand referential integrity might not be available on the big data side. You might need to duplicate data just for the benefit of it. So that there's a whole bunch of differences which we can talk about. Fundamentally, it's not a transactional data. It's more from operational data you store on the big data side.
Okay, got it. Next slide I'm moving, which is talking about cluster configuration.
So, okay. When you talk about cluster configuration, the couple of key things, right? So let's say selecting interactive query. One key point we mentioned is the security aspects of it, right? So we build security into the platform itself, which means from identity perspective, it's available from SSH access. If you see the red box I selected, it basically talks about all the security features which you get out of the box. Then again, if you build your own clusters, you end up building, customizing these ones with Azure. It comes out of the box for you. So that's the advantage of this. Can you go to the next one, please?
Yeah. Key scenarios.
So, yes. So I think we'll quickly run through this. So basically, there are multiple key scenarios you can enable. One is ETL, batch processing, interactive query exploration, data science and machine learning, streaming, and lift and shift workloads. So the scenarios can be multiple, and given the shift in industry, like Cloudera HTTP and Cloudera migrations, a lot of customers tend to use the Microsoft product because it makes things easy for them in terms of migration path as well, right? Because if you notice, both Cloudera and Hortonworks have merged together. A lot of customers who have implemented these solutions in the past don't have an offering to go for. A lot of customers tend to use Azure HT Insight because they can use it as a platform to move on to the next level. So we see a lot of lift and shift use cases. A lot of customers don't want to spend the licenses on Hadoop or on the Cloudera. They come to Azure because it's a single cost model for them versus this whole different cost model as other companies would charge. So yeah. So can you go to the next one? The security is very key.
Sure. And one question, Krishna, like a lot of people say the big data is very expensive, right?
Yep.
It requires a lot of space, a lot of hardware resources.
Yep.
Sometimes, I mean, how is this? How is to be managed? Big data means not like a startup can do big data, right? Because it's very expensive for them.
I think So I think it's because cost is because of two things, right? The cost is because the lot of storage and compute and also operational cost of setting it up, right? So this is where obviously the cost is high, but if you look at the cloud, we introduce key things like a blob storage and compute. It's all basically at a lower rate. Not only that, one of the advantages the platform Hadoop platform on Azure uses blob, which is 2 cents a gig. So all of a sudden we remove the whole complexity of the charge cost charge for the storage. And we also build one additional thing is basically we use on-demand computing model, which means you don't need to have the clusters running to upkeep this big data solution. If you don't want the compute, you can throw the compute away, but still have the storage with you. So there's a whole bunch of advantages which cloud provides. That's not possible on on-premises model. So if you
your
think,
suggestion is to go with the cloud is the cheapest way to do it instead of putting an on-premise data.
so it depends on the use case, right? So if you think about it, cloud is on-demand cost model. If you invested money and effort and anything on premises, most customers look for a 5 years return on investment. When they start to do the first year, if they look at the cost, the cloud cost will be higher. But if you think about it over a period of time, cloud cost is going to reduce more because the more you use, it's going to charge less. So depends on that which part of your life cycle of your big data workloads are. But one also the additional thing is what customers are realizing is buying these huge licenses from different vendors is also adding a lot of cost in terms of maintenance upgrades. Azure would address that very easily, straight out of the box. The benefit goes on. So I really need to rush up some of the slides. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So from a security perspective, right? I think we touched base the security multiple times. We call them multiple different rings of security. The outer ring being the perimeter security, where we have huge networks which is protects your workloads using VNets, subnets, and all the whole lot. The second one we talk about authentication, which is identity would be user-based authentication or token-based authentication, depending on how we use it. Within that, I think one of the discussion points we had previously is about using storage encryption at rest. So that's also another advantage of using Azure, because these things you get out of the box. You don't have to do anything. So that's see, if you're going to set up this one manually, it's going to be a very challenging thing for you. But with Azure, it's all pretty much natively available for you. So that's the whole thing. And then can you go to the next slide, please?
So this is the next slide which says multi-user authentication with enterprise security.
Yep. So one of the things to notice is if you take the identity piece, customers on the Hadoop side tend to deploy LDAPs, the likes of it. So it's easier said than done, because when you're starting deploy configuration, security, and applying identity is going to be a huge challenge. So what Azure gives you a simple Azure AD based authentication that's based on the platform. What we have done is we have built an entire ecosystem of identity solution that runs on top of the Hadoop platform. For example, we integrate Azure AD, and then we have a piece of software that will convert the identity-based systems on Azure into a LDAP authentication, which means it also behaves like a Hadoop-based identity, but it also, at the same time, it also gets the flexibility of the Azure AD thing. So that gives you a whole understanding of it. In terms of security, that's a whole bunch of different topics we had to cover, but we'll cover on the AML side. But can you go to the next one on the big data analytics pipeline?
Yes, I'm in that slide.
Yep. So this single picture gives you a full end-to-end flow of how HT Insight can be used across different types of solutions, starting from the HT Insight is the centerpiece in terms of processing. It also has got data sources connecting in, and the processing is done by the Hadoop ecosystem. And it also got analytics, right? It also additional things like you can use the machine learning and things like that on top of it. And the last piece is the data store. That's where the core engine is. I think this gives you a full end-to-end flow of the solution that helps you to put place where HT Azure Insight can place a role. Kadir, I need to jump. I need to really go now. I'm just getting called, so I will cover the Databricks on the next week's session, and then we can go from there. I need to finish the session now. Really sorry.
Yeah, understand. So we will start from the slide 14 in our next IA session, right? So here, the number of questions are there, like what are these different types of analytics? So how is it different and stuff like that? But I appreciate you jumping in the call to kind of give us some insights about this.
Yep.
We'll let you go if you
Yeah,
really
so I need to. Yeah, I need to go. Only thing is, if you have the questions, copy me in the email. I'll answer those questions next week, or I can drop the note earlier as well. So at this point in time, I think in summary, the HT Insight platform is a fully baked platform as a service model, where it removes the complexity of managing the infrastructure manually, and it also removes one major hurdle. There is no licensing model for this now. You don't pay a license for it. You pay for the usage of the compute and storage services, but that's where the costing ends. This is something which is a different interpretation of the costing model. It also removes the pain point of currency, right? There is no asset allocation. You use it. Once the job is done, you throw the cluster away, keep the storage, and pretty much you are done. So I really want to spend some time on the Databricks topic, which I can cover subsequent weeks. But yeah, I just want to finish this. I need to run for a couple of key things.
So we'll let you go.
Okay.
We really have. I personally want to understand the differences between all these different types of analytics, and let's take it up in our next session. But
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Krishna. In spite of your family emergency, you joining in and giving us 30 minutes of your time, and it's thanks a lot. We will let you go. We'll let you go. I'll close the session with the team.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Team, apologies for not having this whole 1 hour session for today. As you can see, there was some little bit emergency came up with Krishna. So let's continue our session in our next week, and I'm hoping to see you all next week to continue understanding this interesting topic on big data analytics. So some of the thing that I wanted to tell you is I see some of the names here who are not in hackathons. So guys, you should join me. I'm very excited about the hackathons, and you should join me to kind of take this forward on this hackathon initiative. With that, let's close this session for today. Apologies for the short session, but we still learned the basics from Krishna about what is big data, and we'll continue to learn the details in our next session. And I'm looking forward to see you on the next session. Bye-bye for today. Unless you have any questions, shoot it out. Otherwise, let's close this session.